Hello. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. It feels like it was just yesterday that I was saying, thank God it's Friday. Well, I was driving around listening to my audiobook. I'm listening to my new audiobook, which is called The Chalk Man. I finished Rabbit, the autobiography of Ms. Pat. I finished that last night. I gave it 5 stars and 100%. It was so good. Go check out my spoiler-free review on my BookTube channel, Peter Likes Books. Please give it a view. There's a link on there if you want to go check it out. I loved that book so much. It felt like listening to a 12-step lead, kind of. Like listening to somebody's story, except for she didn't do drugs, but she sold drugs. It was so good. It was just so good. Anyway, let's see what today was all about. I thought I just turned the heat off and now it's like back on again. Okay, so, got up today and I had a meeting that, I actually got up and got ready for. And, my hair was done and everything earlier, but I laid down a little bit tonight, so it feels like it's been a long day today. So I went in, had my meeting, and just sat in my office for a little bit afterwards and drank my coffee. I got coffee across the street. And so anyway, and then I was just like thinking, like, I need to do my taxes. I have all my tax stuff together. I just need to do it. And I was like, okay, when are taxes due? And I'm like, oh, well, I've got like less than 2 months, don't I? February, March to April. So yeah, I've got to get them done. Alex always has all of his tax stuff like ready earlier in the year. And then we have to just go in there and write our deductibles. But we keep like envelopes with all of our stuff. We're very organized when it comes to that stuff. Do you guys like hate doing your taxes? I hate doing my taxes. So anyway, I did that and then I left. And then I came right home and I was like really tired today. Like it was raining all day. It was like thunderstorming all day. And Alex let Boo and Tucker out when he left this morning. So when I woke up, they were like in bed and the dogs were being so sweet. They were just like all like huddled around me sleeping. And I was like, I want to go back to bed and take a nap. I've been taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon since last week. So one of the perks of being semi-retired. So anyway, I came home and I took the dogs out and I finished uploading my vlog, and then I took a nap with the dogs, and it was really nice. I took a nap from 3:30 to like 6:15. It was awesome. And it poured down rain outside, and I'd wake up like every hour and it would just like, you could hear the rain against the windows. It was so nice. And Pee-Pee was curled real close to me, breathing real deep. He's had a lot of problems breathing today, actually. I talked to Tanya about it because Tanya's like, I think that his enlarged heart is affecting his trachea, and he's having a hard time breathing as a result of it. So she's like, you need to call the vet and see what the vet says. So I'm going to call the vet tomorrow because he's coughing again, but it's not so much the cough that's the problem as it is, he does this like, it's like this dry heave breathing. And Alex kind of freaked out tonight. And he's like, did Tanya say it was like the end? I was like, no, she didn't say that. She said we need to call the vet. And Tanya wouldn't say to me, like, oh, it's the end. I mean, so if I'm telling you this and you know this is the end, I hope you're not going to say that in my comment section. I'll find out from the vet. But the thing that's so weird about it is, like, the entire day he's like completely fine. Like he is like running around, jumping up on the bed. He's completely fine. Like he doesn't seem like he's like in pain. He doesn't seem like he runs around outside with the dogs. He humps Tucker. Like he seems completely fine. But then as soon as he like has like a moment where he can't breathe, like when I took them out, he came in and after that he like couldn't breathe. He was like, just like, he just like laid there on the stairs for a second, and then I picked him up and I put him on the chair while I was doing some stuff on my computer, and he just seemed real out of breath, and then like an hour later he seemed completely fine. So it was just bizarre today. And he does that like maybe once every other week, where he gets kind of like that. And I almost wondered if it was because the weather was nicer today. Like the weather changes kind of when it's really cold or really nice, kind of seemed to have something to do with it. And it was beautiful today. It was almost 60 degrees here and just thunderstorms and stuff. So, and Tanya did tell me that a lot of dogs are acting up because of the weather lately. So that could be part of it. I don't know. I'm going to call the vet tomorrow and find out and maybe schedule an appointment for PP if that's what we need to do. But then Alex came home and so I uploaded my videos. Okay, or I made my videos, and then let me just tell you, I was so pissed. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if, you know, something happened to my computer or whatever, but I have these files, and they were like, anyway, I had to go in and clean up my computer, and I did it. Well, now, stuff is not saving on my computer. Like, I can't find it anywhere. Like, I don't know where it's saving. I don't know where it's saving. It's like the weirdest thing. And the only way that I can like upload a video is through iMovie, and then I have to render it, save it, and then like, I don't know, has anybody ever had a problem like this before on their Mac? So, like all of my files were gone. Like I went in and I deleted them, but like there were like several copies of each one. I don't know why they were like multiplying. And so it was like filling my disk. And so I started deleting them. Well, then the next day when I woke up, like my files were gone. And I was like, what happened? Like, I don't understand this. So my friend said, have you tried starting your computer over? And I was like, no, I didn't even think about that. He was like, yeah, you might try that. So, but I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I started getting really frustrated. And then I was like, okay, this is not a world problem. There are bigger issues going on in your life and other people's lives. You know, like, let's just let this go. So I was like, I'll just put them through iMovie first, render them and upload them, which didn't take that long. And then Alex was on his way home. We were going to watch RuPaul's Drag Race. So he's like, I'm going to bring food home. Do you want Chipotle? And I was like, yeah. So he brought me a veggie bowl from Chipotle. Their veggie bowls are delicious. And we sat there and we watched RuPaul's Drag Race. Then I watched my video back, and by then it was like, and he watched, what did he watch? He watched something else on, oh, no. I went and got a fountain coke with Tanya. And so I went with Tanya and I got a fountain pop. Well, I got a bottle of water. It's behind me. I drank the whole thing. And she got a fountain pop, and we talked for a little bit, and then I took her home, and then I went home, and I was so tired, and it was 11:30, and Alex was going to bed, and so he had put the dogs in their house, and so I went upstairs and laid in bed with he and Pee-Pee for a little bit, and we talked, and then I said I was going to set my alarm for 45 minutes, and I woke up like 2 hours later. It's like 2 something right now. So anyway, and of course I'm wide awake because my sleep schedule totally sucks. My sleep schedule only sucks when other people like have issues with it. Like, I mean, he doesn't. Like, Alex could care less. My sleep schedule does not suck for me. Like, I don't mind it. And I like being up late at night. Tomorrow I have a meeting from 12 to 2. And then I'm done for the weekend. I don't work again. I don't think I have anything until Tuesday. And I actually have to go somewhere because that's where the training is. And so I have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, nothing to do except for stuff. I'm going to be working on my merch the next couple days. Hoping to get my merch out by this weekend. And the ringtones. I'm working on the ringtones too. I'm excited about it. You know, it's like, people have asked for this stuff for so long. I'm like, well, let's see. Will I sell a t-shirt even, you know? I just like looked back there and saw that yellow light flashing over that thing. It freaks me out for a second. So anyway, and then Alex has to work tomorrow, 12 hours, and then he's going to Above and Beyond. He got media passes to see them. And he asked me if I wanted to go, and I was like, no, I really don't. I want to do a live stream. I need to do a live stream because I haven't done one in a while, and I would like to do a long one. I like doing long live streams. I miss kind of doing long live streams. So I'm going to do that tomorrow night. And then Saturday, neither one of us has any plans, and Sunday, neither one of us has any plans. So, yeah. That's it. Once I get the merch shop like all done, maybe the next thing I'll do is my taxes. Maybe I can do that sometime this week coming up. Just consolidating all that stuff. I already have all this stuff together. I just hate doing it every year. It's just such a mess, you know. Do you guys feel like that about taxes as well? I mean, it's just such a hassle, right? I miss the days when all I had was just like working for an organization and I got, you know, what's it called? I don't even remember what it's called anymore. a W-2. Yeah. And then you just like go through and do all that and hand it to somebody, pay them $30 to do it. And then you get a tax return. Like, I miss those days. That's not my life anymore. You know, when you have 4 different businesses that you do, 5 different businesses that you do, it's like you have all these little things, you know? So anyway, now I'm listening to this book on Audible called The Chalk Man. And it's about these kids. Like, I'm not really sure yet what's going on. I just started it. I'm like a half an hour into it. It's about it takes place in England. And these kids are friends. And they're like, it kind of very much has the feel of like It by Stephen King a little bit. And they're friends like in middle school. They're like 12 or 13. And all of them, it's like all these boys and this one girl. And her name is Nikki. And they go to this fair. And so anyway, these chalk figures start showing up on the ground, and it has something to do with a dead body, and then it keeps them flashing back and forth, back and forth. I like it. It's well done so far. It's like the new best mystery out there, they're saying right now, so we'll see. I mean, I don't love it as much as I love The Woman in the Window. I mean, that book took me right away, you know? So... we watched RuPaul's Drag Race tonight. I won't ruin it for anybody if you guys watch it and haven't seen it yet. It was good. I'm like searching my mind trying to think of something I want to talk about. It was like funny in my main video today, I kept on like referencing all these things that had happened when I was like in elementary school, you know? And it's interesting because like, I still live real close to the elementary school that I went to. I went to Mohawk Trails Elementary. And, I have, like, this real mix of memories at that school, you know? Like, kids bullied me, but it wasn't really until I got to middle school. And I would say, like, not 6th grade. Like, 6th grade was a really good year for me. Like, I made a lot of friends. It was like, 6th grade was when, like, it was at the junior high school, and it was, like, when all of, like, the elementary schools met. So, like, there was, like, 3 or 4 elementary schools, and we all came together as, like, one 6th grade class. And so, like, I made a lot of new friends. I met a lot of new people. And, that was like when I was friends with these 2 girls like that whole year and the summer after, and we were like best friends, all of us. And you know, I was kind of thinking about that today. It's like funny. It's like I know so many people that like just don't think about that stuff, you know. And it's like I think to some degree, having been a counselor and looking at people's histories and looking at people's past and, you know, what formed them into being who they are today, like, kind of made me this person that, like, I trimmed my beard yesterday, and I even trimmed it right here, and it's, like, driving me crazy. But anyway, you know, like, I think, like, I look a lot at that stuff, that, like, who does our history make us into today, if that makes sense. And, you know, I was thinking about, like, so a couple years ago, Alex and I were approached by, it was like Russia TV. It's like this cable channel. And we were in a documentary with 2 other couples that were married in the United States, that were same-sex couples. And the documentary was supposed to give hope to, like, Russian gay men and women. I think there was 1 lesbian couple and 2 gay couples, 2 gay men couples. And it was supposed to give them hope. And so, like, moving here. And so, it shot, like, all this stuff. Like, we took this guy. He was so nice. And he was with us for like 4 or 5 days, 3 or 4 days. And like he shot a lot of footage at the house. And then like we took him out to dinner, and he wanted us just to like take him out on what a regular night would be like. And so we took him to some like very cool like bars downtown. We took him actually to this place called Thunderbird. God, why is this itching me so bad tonight? Which was the bar that my grandfather actually bartended at when, I mean, long before he passed away when my mom was 4. And they have like really good food there and stuff. And then we took him somewhere else. I can't remember where. I can't remember what his name was. He was such a neat guy, and he was married and had 2 little girls, and he found out while he was with us that his wife was pregnant. And so anyway, but one of the things that he did was he took me to the elementary school, and he had me like walk around the playground and talk about what my experience was like there. And I referred to it as a battleground, I remember. And I am like so half tempted just to like turn the camera off for a second until I figure out what is going on, because it is like driving me crazy. A lot of times, and I wonder if it's because I'm talking a lot of times my nose doesn't start itching me until I get on camera. I don't know what it's about, so it seems okay now, so let's just pray for that. Anyway. I think his name was like Sergi or something. But anyway, I'm almost positive that's what it was. He took me to the elementary school, and I remember he like filmed a lot of footage of me like just like swinging on the swings, and they were the exact same swings that were there when I was like in elementary school. And what's kind of interesting is that like years later, when I was like in 7th or 8th grade, 7th grade, my friend and I, we went up there with these 2 other girls, and we got completely wasted drunk, and that was like the first time I ever got like really drunk. And they acted so different than I did. I remember we were like swinging, and they were puking everywhere, and I remember having to help my friend home until we got back to his house. And I remember just swinging, and the stars were bright, and it was like in the summer, and I was like, oh my God, it's so pretty outside, and I wanted to do it again. I couldn't wait to get drunk again. And I've heard that same story from so many people, you know, that have gotten sober, that they like that first time was so magical to them. But that happened at the elementary school playground too. So I remember like when we were there, and he was like, you know, what's your memory of this place and whatever. And I was like, it was a battleground. And it's funny because I guess that would be more like middle school for me. Elementary school wasn't really like this battleground place. It just really wasn't. I'm turning that off because there's... You're in the dark with Peter Monn. There was this police officer just like sitting there on the side of the road with his lights on, and I was like, why is he being so sketchy? So anyway, but I defined it as a battleground. But you know, I was thinking about it today when I was kind of telling these funny stories about elementary school, and it was like, I don't really remember when it started for me that it got like really ugly. Like, I don't remember when it got for me, like when it wasn't like people were mean. Like, I do remember like the boys not wanting me to play with them on recess, but then I just played with the girls, you know? And that was how I started, like, you know, I think it's this misconception in our society, I think, that like a lot of gay men who are like effeminate when they're younger, like I was, that like, oh, we think we're girly or we're more this, and that's why we hang out with girls. Like, do I enjoy the company of women more than men? Yeah, most of the time I do. But have I had some very masculine straight friends that, like, my friend Brian is like one of my closest friends, and he's like an MMA fighter and stuff, you know, like, and he's straight and married and has 2 daughters. So, you know, like, I don't think that has a lot to do with it, but I do think that one of the things that happens is that when we're younger, you know, it's like the boys don't want to play with us, so the girls take us in, and then we become friends with the girls, and then people say, oh, he's friends with all girls. Well, yeah, well, nobody else will play with us, you know? And elementary school can be lonely if you're the kid that's ostracized. And I did have some good friends in elementary school, you know, I just did. I don't remember going to school every day and it being like pure hell. I remember I had like 3 or 4 friends that, you know, we would play on the playground and joke, and, you know, I was, you know, in choir and stuff like that. I mean, you know, I just don't remember it being pure misery. I remember there being a lot of good times too. You know, I remember like the classes of where they read to us. Like I said, oh my God, I said it in one of my videos, something about Mrs. Hop reading us Help I'm a Prisoner in the Library, and somebody else said that they had that book too. I could not believe it. But, you know, or, you know, the Valentine's Day parties or the Christmas parties or, you know, snow days, or just, you know, like walking home from, I was a walker, so we would all walk home from school together and throw snowballs at each other and, you know, whatever. I mean, it just wasn't horrible. Now, when I got to like 7th grade is when it started getting really, really bad. And I think that's where it's like, you know, the saying where they say this is where the divides the men and the boys. I think it's like the boys that really needed to start showing their own masculinity, and, you know, that was when everybody was talking about like who's having sex with who, and not that many people were really having sex anyway, not at the school that I went to in 7th grade, but, you know, they started talking about all that kind of stuff, and then it was like, you know, it was hard, and it was like I was kind of out of all of that, and not only was I didn't fit in, but at the same time, I also, like, I was so naive and kind of innocent. Like, my parents kept me very innocent, you know, I was very age appropriate always, and, I wouldn't say I was ever backwards. Like, I knew what was going on in the world, and, you know, I was always around adult conversations, you know, it's like, I think that was the other thing, is like being an only child, it was hard, you know, like I would grow up, or as I grew up, it's like my weekends with my mom, like she didn't like to be alone, and so we would go over to my Aunt Kathy's house a lot, my Aunt Kathy and Uncle Dave, and then, like, you know, they always had, like, I can't believe that stupid yellow light is on, it makes me so mad. If this camera just shuts off, we'll come back, but, but we would go over to my aunt and uncle's house on the weekend. It just shut off. I cannot believe that. Okay, I'm back. So anyway, I was talking about my aunt and uncle's house, but, like, you know, on the weekends, like, we would go to, like, on a Friday night, my mom, you know, like, she would pack up a little bag for me and a little bag for her, and then we would go over to my aunt and uncle's house, and we would be over there the whole weekend. I mean, we would stay at my aunt and uncle's house the whole weekend. I remember this, you know, when I was little. And, man, there are cops everywhere tonight, and they're kind of in, like, some sneaky areas. So anyway, I remember, like, you know, I would stay in my cousin's bedroom, like, my mom and I would stay in there, like, and, oh, by the time that we would go over there and stay on the weekends, my aunt and uncle, like, my cousin had moved down into the basement, and she had, like, a water bed in the basement. She had the whole basement as, like, her bedroom, you know, when people do that. But, so, her old bedroom had, like, a day bed by the window where I would sleep, and it had a double bed in it. And then later, it had, like, 2 twin beds in there, I remember, because I would sleep in one, and my mom would sleep in another one. It was, like, peach carpet and these peach beds. It was real nice. It sounds cheesy, but it wasn't. But anyway, and then my mom would, like, you know, people would come over for dinner and drinks, and then afterwards, when they would all leave, like, my mom and my aunt and my uncle would watch a movie in, like, my aunt and uncle's bedroom. They had this huge bedroom with, like, the sitting area and everything. My mom would sit in a little wicker sitting area, and they would sit in bed. I was talking about this one night because I was saying that, like, my mom used to say that it would scare her that my aunt would fall asleep, because she would fall asleep like this, smoking a cigarette in bed. This is back when people smoked in their houses, and she'd fall asleep and the cigarette would still be burning. But, those weekends for me, like, I was always around adults. There were never any kids that were my age. And sometimes I feel bad for, like, Carlitos, my nephew, because he's, like, 5.5, you know, and the rare times that all the cousins get together and he has other kids to play with, like, it doesn't happen very often. Typically, it's just him and Sebastian. Well, Sebastian's 2. I mean, he's not a lot of fun for Carlitos to play with, you know? So Carlitos is always just kind of by himself, and I relate to that. Like, I remember being that kid, and I would always just kind of be, like, at my mom's feet, or, you know, like, reading a book, but I'd be sitting in the room, and, like, so really I'd be reading a book, but I'd be listening to what all the adults were saying, and they were all, like, you know, talking and gossiping about people, and, And I enjoyed that. And I think there was a part of me that wanted to grow up into that, let's sit around and have cocktails and talk, because that was a lot of what my, like, drinking was a lot of what my drinking was like when I started drinking at like 18. Like when I had my own apartment, like I had people over and we would sit around and drink and talk and stuff. It looked similar to that. Does that make sense? So anyway, but I think as I got older, like I had a hard time like with my own peer group, because I just was either around adults after school, or I always just had like one friend. And I don't remember at the time, like, I was joking in my video today that I wanted to be popular and I wasn't. Like, I don't remember ever really thinking that, you know? Like, I don't remember ever thinking, God, I wish I had 15 friends, or I'm not popular. Like, I know I was aware of it, but it's kind of like when you're aware of anything else about yourself, but you know that there's nothing you can do about it. Like, I knew that I wasn't ever going to be that popular kid, so it didn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't matter. And it was funny, I was talking to the girl that cuts my hair, and she's cut my hair for a long time, and she has a daughter that's in like 3rd grade, and she came home and she said, we came up with a name for our group at school. And she was like, and the woman that cuts my hair is African American, and she said, oh really? She said to her daughter, she goes, well, what did you name? And she goes, we're the all-inclusives. And she said, oh, you are? She goes, well, what does that mean? She goes, well, that means that we, like, you know, we high-five each other in the hallway, and we sit together at lunch, and we're in all the classes together. But she's like, you know, there's me, and then there's, you know, so-and-so, and her parents are from, you know, India, and then there's, you know, this boy, and he's white, and she's like, we're the all-inclusives. Anybody that wants to be in our group can be. We're not the popular kids, we're not the nerds, but we're the all-inclusives. Anybody that wants to be in our group can be in our group. And it so took me back. I was like thinking about that. It's like my group was kind of the all-inclusives, you know what I mean? Like, we just, I don't know. And, but I was thinking about that today, because I was like, I think really who you are in your childhood a lot of times builds who you are later in life, and you either kind of accept that or you kind of fight against it and try to change it, you know? And I never really tried to change it. I was always kind of like, there was another police officer. I mean, like, this is unreal. And they all drive these big, huge SUVs. But I was always kind of like after junior high and high school, I was kind of like, I went through this phase. You either like me or you don't like me, and I'm not going to change that about you, you know? And that was when I went through this very, like, self-acceptance phase. My clothes got kind of, that's where I kind of, like, really, I found myself to some degree. You know, I was very punk rock in high school, and then that kind of, like, merged into this punk rock, kind of, like, some hippie-ishness to it. And I think it was really like, I don't know, maybe I wasn't able to find who I was when I was in high school, because I was so afraid. I was either like a rebel, like in your face, or I was like quiet and silent, like don't cause any waves, was kind of my attitude about things. And I don't know, maybe I learned that in elementary school, you know, just don't cause any waves, just get along with people and be friendly and whatever. And but, you know, it's interesting when I look back on elementary school and, like, the people that I was friends with and how they formed my future and all of that kind of stuff. And if I had been friends with, let's say, 5 other different people, or gone to a different elementary school and had different friends, and, you know, like, what would my life have looked like? How different would it have been? But I thought that was interesting. I was thinking about when, you know, he asked me about what my perception of elementary school was, and I said it was a battleground, you know, or battlefield. Not to be confused with the Pat Benatar song. But I guess it really wasn't, you know, like, I remember I was a crossing guard my senior year, my 5th grade year, and that meant I got to wear one of those white things and then go like this to the car so that the kids could walk over, you know? And I remember that afterwards, on the last school day, there was one crossing guard for each, like, area where you crossed. There was, like, 2 of them. There was, like, 4 of us, maybe, total. 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. And I remember afterwards when I was done, I had to take the crossing guard thing back inside. And I don't even know like how I became a crossing guard. I know I wanted to be one so bad. It was like wanting to be a lifeguard. I always wanted to be a lifeguard, but I wasn't. But anyway, I just for the whistle. That's why I wanted to be a lifeguard. But I remember I took the thing inside and I walked out, and I had this like sudden rush that I was like, this is the last time that I'll ever be here. Like this is my school. Like this is all I've known. Like, my mom used to always say, she's like, you've been such an old soul from such a young age. Like, you always see endings and you see, like, you know, but, like, I just had this very weird feeling that this would be, like, I was like, this is it. Like, it's over, you know? Elementary school's over. I mean, I was 10 at the time to have those thoughts, you know? This very maudlin kind of grieving that I was going through leaving elementary school. And I remember that I just, you know, it was already by that point, like, you know, all the kids that were walking home were already home, and I just ran home, and as soon as I hit my street, bam, just started bawling my eyes out, and I ran all the way home and got in the house. I can remember saying to my mom, like, I'll never go back to Mohawk Trails again, it's over. And I wonder what she thought about all of that sometimes. You know, both of my parents were so kind, but it's like, with a lot of stuff like that, I always had, like, very weird, you know, endings to things. I don't remember having that with junior high. I did not like junior high at the end. 7th and 8th grade were pure hell for me. So I don't really remember having that. And in 8th grade was kind of when I started getting into my own style of, like, the punk music and all that kind of stuff. And listening to a lot of different music, and music really was like grounding my soul. My mom and my dad were always people that really pushed music and art and things like that. So I kind of came into my artistic self, and so I was ready to get out of junior high. Like, people were not kind to me, and I thought maybe high school would be different. But I was terrified to go to high school too. I was really scared. And I remember my mom's best friend Diane lived on Beaver Island, Michigan, her like last 20 years of her life. And we went to go visit her that summer, and we went to go visit her like the first week of August with my mom's friend Vicky and her daughter Kate. And I remember telling Kate how scared I was. I can remember we were like on the ferry from Charlevoix to Beaver Island, and I just listened to that Bob Dylan song, Mr. Tambourine Man, like on repeat. I can remember just listening to it over and over and over again as like we were going over Lake Michigan. And I remember she said something about, like, you're really quiet today or something, and I said, because we, like, stopped at a hotel on the way up there, and so anyway, I remember that trip was so fun. We got this, like, I had this, like, book and tape, and it was called Is Elvis Alive? And Kate and I were, like, destined to find out if we were, like, we believed Elvis was still alive, and we were, like, writing clues the whole trip. I mean, I'm, like, going into 10th grade, and she was, like, 2 years behind me, and the whole time we were, like, writing down notes in the car. And I remember my mom and Vicky just, like, smoked nonstop in the car the whole way up there, and it was like they had the windows up and the air conditioning on. Do you guys remember back in the day when people would smoke in cars with the window? Do people still do that with the windows open? We'd have ashtrays in our car, and it stank so bad. Do you remember that? Ugh. So anyway, but I remember looking at her and I said, I'm scared to start, you know, my sophomore year. And earlier that summer, Susie had come to visit with her 2 daughters, and Susie's daughter she and I were 7 days apart, but she had started high school as a freshman, and like their high school had been my high school was 10, 11, 12, so this would have been the end of my 9th grade year. So my junior high was 6, 7, 8, 9, so this would have been the end of my 9th grade year going into 10th grade that I was scared. And I remember saying to Carrie, I said, I'm like really scared to go to school, like, and she's like, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. She's like, it wasn't bad for me. And I was like, yeah, but you have an older sister that goes to school there. She's like, it'll be fine, don't worry about it, you'll fit in. And I was terrified. I was terrified to go my sophomore year of high school. Like, I didn't know anybody. And I remember I rode the bus a couple times, and I told my mom, I said, I'm not riding that bus anymore. And she was like, the kids were ruthless on the fucking bus. They were ruthless. They were either like seniors that didn't have friends, and so they were like, and their parents wouldn't drive them to school, so they were mean as shit, or they just like, I don't know, but I was like, after about 4 days in, I was like, you're taking me to school, I'm not doing that anymore. And so my mom took me to school for the rest of my sophomore year, and then my junior year, I don't know if it would have been my junior year or my senior year that I got a car, I can't remember. I was 17 my junior year, so I would have been 16, or my senior year. I was like I didn't turn like an age until like, so I didn't I turned 18 after I graduated from high school, so I would have been 17 my senior year, 16 my junior year. I got my license, like we didn't have these stupid rules back in the day. I mean, I guess they're not stupid, but they save lives. But back in the day, like you got your license that day and you could drive and take 15 people in your car. You remember that? So, oh, and man, I was ready to drive. My mother taught me to drive. My dad got so frustrated with me because my first car was stick. And he was trying to teach me how to drive stick, and he thought I was ruining the clutch, and I didn't, but whatever. I was a great stick driver. I miss driving it sometimes. But so anyway, my sophomore year, I had no friends. I really didn't have any friends until like the second semester. And these girls that I was kind of friends with, that ended up being my best friends in high school, like I would sit with them at lunch like my freshman year of junior high, because I had nobody else and I was kind of friends with them. But they would say like things like, these two girls that I was friends with that were twins, because they became friends with my friend Heather that like I had known since kindergarten. They were kind of mean a little bit. Like they would say things like, don't you have any guys to sit with? And then they would laugh, and it would be like this table joke, and I would just sit there because honestly it was easier to take it from them than it was to go sit by myself. The other thing was, when I was in junior high, I skipped lunch a lot and sat in the library and talked to the librarian. And looking back, it's weird, like I think she kind of knew I didn't really have any friends, you know, like, because she allowed that to just happen. And I mean, thank you, wherever she is. I don't even remember what her name is, but there was like 3 of us, I remember. There was like another guy and then this girl, and we weren't really nice to each other either, which is kind of funny that I remember. We would just kind of be there and like talk to the librarian and kind of hang out by her desk. And that's weird. I didn't really remember that till right now. I was so awkward, you know, like I just didn't feel like I fit in, and it was just like, I can remember some days it was just like enough just to get through the day. I mean, kids were really brutal to me, and it was really, really hard. And sometimes it wasn't even so much about being picked on or the fear of knowing where it was going to come next, like I talked about the other night. A lot of times it was just the absolute loneliness, isolation of being invisible, you know, that I didn't matter to anybody, that I didn't have any friends. I mean, I had no friends. And my 6th grade year, I had like going 7th, 8th, and 9th. I had a really good friend of mine that moved here from Arizona, and he and I became really close. And he ended up like getting into band really, really heavy. And so like all his friends after that were in band. So we just really weren't friends after that. Like we were, like we would see each other after school, like on the weekends and stuff, but like, I don't know, like when band started, like our freshman year and our sophomore year, like he was so involved in band and like marching band and stuff that I never saw him. So I really had no friends. It was just fucking lonely, you know, it was just really lonely. I don't wish that on anybody. And on top of that, I can remember my mom asking me, like, well, don't you want to, like, do something with your friends this weekend? And I can remember thinking to myself, I don't have anybody to do anything with, you know? And I felt so safe at home on the weekend, you know, by myself with my mom, like, and my dog. I just, like, that was my safe spot. And then I felt like my mom was kind of judging me, too, which she wasn't. You know, I just don't think she got it. I don't think she really understood. I really didn't have any fucking friends. I can kind of feel myself getting a little bitter telling this story. It's weird. It's like, I don't know, like, is it really that hard to be nice to people, you know? So then I hung out one weekend with those girls, and And I'll never forget, because on the way home, I sat, like, our friend drove her mom's station wagon, and we were all, there was like 6 of us in there, and probably more than that, and 3 of us were in the very back, looking at the back seat of the station wagon. Do you remember those old days? And we were singing American Pie, and I'll never forget it. We're like, bye, bye, Miss American Pie, drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. So anyway, I'll probably sing that in my main channel video tomorrow, because it'll be in my head from now on. But, and after that, it was just like, I mean, this is the day before cell phones and social media. I mean, so this was like, you had to write somebody's number down and call them and all this kind of stuff, and I was like in it to win it. I mean, we were friends after that. I mean, thick as thieves. I sat with them every day at lunch. Those girls had my back. They didn't let nobody fuck with me. And we were rebel rousers. We were. I mean, we were graffitiing and, you know, drinking all the time and smoking cigarettes and smoking clove cigarettes. We listened to, you know, The Cure and The Smiths and Susie and the Banshees and New Order. Oh my God, we listened to New Order like it was going out of style. We loved it. And the Jesus and Mary chain. I mean, I was punk rock. I mean, I was punk rock. We thought we were like straight up out of that movie Pretty in Pink. And we hung out in Broad Ripple, which is where my office is now. And it was very punk back then. And we were just badasses, you know. But I was always very respectful in school. And when, you know, teachers would say things to me, I just wasn't disrespectful. I just wasn't at all, you know. Like, I just kind of took it. And, I got bullied a lot right in front of teachers, and teachers never did anything about it. And I have to be honest with you, and if you're a teacher out there, you know, like, be very aware of what's going on in your classroom. And when teachers say things to me like, oh, well, we have bullying protocol, and I'm like, do you know what's going on in your classroom? Like, do you see it right in front of your face? I had so many teachers, I mean, I had kids look at me in the middle of a classroom and just shout faggot at me, and a teacher just look at me with, like, pain in her eyes, like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. And, you know, like, I don't get that. Like, you're an adult, you know, step up to the plate. And if I had said to a teacher, I need your help, it would have made me look bad. But if a teacher had stepped right in and just helped the situation and looked at him and said, you're not going to call him that, go to the principal's office, you know, it would have been a lot better. I actually got in trouble a couple times for standing up. I had a teacher, I'll never forget this. And how I didn't know it at the time is beyond me. I shouldn't say this because this is so stereotypical, but she was a softball coach, okay? And she was friends with all the football players. And she was a math teacher at the high school that I went to. So I had a math study hall. My mother was on my ass about taking this stupid math study hall because I was failing out of math. I couldn't pass these stupid algebra classes, and I couldn't pass them. So I was in this class, and I just did not understand this stuff. Well, her job was to, like, help us with problems. Every day, these big-ass football players, 2 of them, I'll never forget, would sit on the end of her desk. And they were, like, a year younger than me, too. This was when I was a senior. Like, they were not, like... But whatever. I've shared this on here before. It's not new. I would love to run into her. I mean, I really would. She's, like, one person, like... This is how bad it is. She was on my resentment list, okay, when I did a 4-step. Like, seriously, like, all those years later. But anyway, I walked up there and I asked her for help. And she said, "What, you need to go sit down and read it. It's in your book." She treated me like I was stupid. And I go, "I know, but that's why I took the class, that you could, that's why I took the study hall, so you could help me with this." And she was like, "Why don't you go back to your desk and figure it out?" And I was like, okay. And I turned and I started walking back. And as I turned, okay, the 2 football players started laughing. And she said under her breath, "Fag." I turned around and I looked at her and I said, "Excuse me, what did you say to me?" And she said, "I didn't say anything to you." And they both laughed. And then the class laughed because they heard her too. And I go, "I heard what she said." And I went like that, and I spit on her desk. Because she can go to the dean's office. I said, "That's fine by me." And I went to that dean's office, and I told him exactly what she did, and I got suspended for spitting at a teacher's desk. And you know what? There's a lot of things in my life that I am not proud of, but that ain't one of them. Or that I'm, like, ashamed of, but that's not one of them. I'm telling you right now. I wish I would have stood up for myself a little bit more in class. I'm don't wish I would have spit on any teachers. I don't think anybody deserves to be spit on. I think that's disgusting, but she should never have said that to me. That's basically saying it's okay to be derogatory to people and put them down. I still to this day cannot believe that that even happened to me in my life. I cannot believe that happened to me. Like, when I think about that incident, like how clear it is in my head that that happened. And then I had this amazing French teacher named Mrs. Neer. She's passed away. And she passed away like 2 years after we graduated from high school. But she was really a cool lady. And I kind of modeled the teacher in my book after her. That woman that I told you about, she ended up becoming a comedian, a stand-up comedian, I found out. I wanted to go, this was like, when I started going out when I was like 19 or 20, it was when I saw in like a gay newspaper here in town that she was like doing like comedian shit, right, stand-up comedy, and I was like, oh, I would love to show up and just heckle the shit out of her in the front row, you know? But I didn't, because I'm better than that now. I guess I do feel bad about spitting on her desk, I don't know. I think that's horrible. I don't think a teacher should ever do that. Never got an apology. That dean should have called her down there and said, you owe an apology to this. See, we were too concerned with protecting teachers and administrators rather than have them admit their faults, which is why when I worked with teenagers, if I did something wrong, I always admitted my faults, because kids need to know that adults fuck up too, period. So anyway, I had this teacher named Mrs. Neer. She was so cool, and I kind of modeled a moment that I had with her, like, in my book that I wrote, because I would come into class every day and I would be reading something like Sun Also Rises, or, you know, I don't know, something like that. That's what I remember in my head, because she asked me, she said, oh, what are you reading? And I said, The Sun Also Rises. My mom, you know, suggested it to me. Oh, that's one of my favorite books. I love that book. She was so nice, you know. And I remember I was a senior in that class, and no, I was a junior, and this kid that was a sophomore, like, when I, went up to the class, he went, faggot, like that. We had to, like, write our name on the board or something, and this was, like, the first day of class, and I just stood there. I turned around and I just stood there, and I, like, looked at him. Like, I never, like, hunkered down and just went to my desk. Like, I kind of, like, indirectly confronted it, like, did you just seriously do that? But, like, I wouldn't say anything, you know what I mean? So I remember I just sat there and I, like, looked at him, and then I, like, looked over at her, and she just had this look on her face. And after class, I was getting my shit together, and, I was walking out of class, and I was, like, the last one, and she said, I'm really sorry. She said, I didn't know what to say. And I just looked at her like, uh-huh. But by that point, I had so many teachers that had heard me called so many names, had seen people trip me, had seen people push shit out of my books out of my hands, had seen people take my shit from me, had seen people throw shit at my head. You know, I had so many teachers that allowed that it was just like, whatever, you know, whatever. I think one of the problems that we have is that we're not teaching teachers how to deal with bullying in the classroom. Like, we just assume that teachers should know how to handle that, when I don't think the teachers really do know how to handle that, you know? I don't think they have the skills to know what is appropriate measures to take in that situation without going nut crazy and saying, you know, going, you're not going to call somebody a faggot in class. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we know how to do that. And I think teachers are scared too. Because teachers, you know, don't want to become the next, like, person that they're being aimed at. And God, especially today, in today's time, I mean, I'd be terrified to be a teacher, you know? So I don't know. But it doesn't make it right. And it doesn't make it right that I ever had a teacher that called me a name. Actually had a friend of mine that was friends with her because she was like on the softball team, and she was like, she never said that to you. And I was like, or she never said that to you. I go, yes, she most certainly did. I was suspended for school for it. And she goes, she never said that to you. And this was like, we had like an argument for like a year over this. Like, I lost her as a friend, and then she finally said, oh, I kind of heard her say some things. I think she probably did say that to you. And I was like, it took you a year because you didn't believe me, you know? Whatever. We live and we learn. I do think this. I could sit and choose to be a victim for the rest of my life, and I choose not to be a victim, you know? The thing is that I have pretty tough skin today because of what I went through. That doesn't mean that words don't hurt. That doesn't mean that things don't hurt, because I do think that shit hurts, you know? It still brings up those old wounds. It makes me talk to people in a way that I would want to be talked to, even when I'm in pain. So when I'm hurting or I'm upset, you know, I talk about forgiveness, or I talk about moving on, or talking about dealing with confrontation and love and compassion. You know, those are the things I believe in. But it doesn't mean that I have to be a doormat, and I don't believe that. And I don't believe that anybody else has to be a doormat either, you know? And I think a lot of times we just need to stand up for ourselves in, you know, nonviolent ways and in loving and compassionate ways. And even if it does us more harm, you know, like to say to somebody, it's not okay to talk to me that way, you know, and then they come back and go, it's not okay to talk to you that way. Well, okay, fine, but you still stood up for yourself and said what you had to say, you know? I wish I would have stood up for myself a little bit more instead of just cowering and going to my desk, because I did do that sometimes, you know? Like, you know, I would stand up there sometimes like, is this really happening to me? And just like looking around the room. Like other times I just kind of was like, fuck it. Like just go to your seat, shut up. It's just easier not to deal with. And that's the bullying way. See, when you're the one that's being bullied, it's easier sometimes just to sit down and take it and shut your mouth, because it'll be less than what you're going to be dealing with if you fight it. Like, and that's the thing, because they want you to engage, right? So like, if they're calling you names on a daily basis and you're engaging in it, it's just going to continue. Or sooner or later, they'll find somebody else to pick on. And it's just like, that's it, you know? Like, and you learn that about as quick as first grade sitting at the lunch table like I did. It's like, shut your mouth. I learned that lesson quick. I really did. You also learn to find safe places, and I think that's important for anybody going through that, you know? If somebody asks me today, like, what should I do? I'm being bullied, and, like, you know, I'm so scared, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I guess it depends on what the extent of the bullying is, but I would say find a safe place. Find a safe place person in your school. Maybe not a teacher that's going to do anything about it, but maybe a teacher that you can go and talk to about it on a day that it's been really bad, you know? Realize you've only got so many days until you're done with this school shit anyway, because I'll tell you what, for me, the bullying... Truly, okay? The student bullying stopped for me the day I graduated. I didn't deal with none of those people's bullshit the day after I graduated. I mean, from that moment on, it was over. I didn't take shit from nobody after that. I was done. I was out of that school. Fuck you people. And, you know, like, so when people say it gets better, it does get better. It gets better the day you graduate from high school. You know, like, for me it did. I think the camera just shut off again. I don't know. But now those people are super nice to me. You know, the people that saw me or were mean to me in high school. And they've all, most of them have all apologized to me and said, I'm really sorry that I treated you that way. You didn't deserve it, you know? And that's the full circle piece of it. You know, people are allowed to change. And I have to allow people to change, and I have to forgive them. And, you know, forgiveness is a powerful tool, and love and kindness and compassion is a powerful tool, and I don't want to live with hate in my heart. I just don't. So, you know, as much as I can remember all that stuff, and I can see, well, this is who it formed me into being who I am today, well, maybe all of that stuff had to happen for me to truly understand grace, forgiveness, love, kindness, compassion, tolerance, and, you know, patience. Did I already say that one? I don't know, you know? I know that as hard as all of that stuff has been, my drug use, the drinking, the missed nights that I don't remember, the bullying in high school, all of that, I don't know that I would take back 1 minute, because it's all made me who I am today, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So, that got real deep. I didn't have anything to talk about tonight. And look, I almost went an hour, so, oh my gosh. All right, I'm gonna get off here now. I love you guys. Bye.